Hello, everyone. You are now tuned in to the Millionaire. Blah blah blah. I am already messing this podcast up. You're now tuned in to the Millionaire Millennial. My name is Stack Banks. I like to believe that this is the most powerful financial podcast in the world. Today, I am recording from my apartment. Usually, I give you guys one episode from my apartment and then one from the office. But just this week, because I've got travel plans upcoming, things have been a little hectic. But last week I had released a podcast talking about Bankscoin, and it got a little bit of traction. And I had dropped a link in the description of the YouTube video that went to the petition that you guys can sign if you're interested in making an impact in the transparency, democratization, and free use of crypto as time goes on. Now, a lot of you are probably wondering what I'm talking about. Bankscoin, I have yet to release the actual white paper, but its main purpose, or one of two main purposes, is to create compliance within the Web3 space. And some of you might not know what that means, but when you look at the FDIC or the SEC in traditional banking systems or the stock market, as most of you may be familiar with, you have these bodies that come up with rules and mechanisms and different things that allow us to regulate that market. Typically, it should be for a positive impact and to safeguard investors, retail investors, just anyone who participates in that market. So Web3 now, for a time, has not had any compliance mechanisms. No one's come up with any ways for it. It's something that people talk about, and the SEC has been pushing to try and redefine the definition of what a cryptocurrency is to make it so that it is under the definition of a commodity, so that the rules that the SEC has can be placed over them and that they would have oversight over it. And I, for one, believe this is wrong. I think it's bad, not only because the SEC does not do a good job of policing Wall Street, but because I believe that there's a lot of corruption over at the SEC, and you guys can look into that further. But if you were to go on Google and type in SEC corruption, you'll find I'm not the only person that thinks that or sees that. And it was not something that I came to that opinion of my own accord. It's actually through a lot of bad press and my participation in the market that I've seen some things that I think are essentially fraudulent, and something should be done about it. And I don't think the SEC does a good enough job internally housekeeping to let alone start policing or working to ensure compliance and safety within a market, the crypto market. Number one, too, beyond just that, number two is the fact that just a few years ago, Gary Gensler and people like that were claiming that they didn't understand it, that it was a Ponzi scheme, that it would have no place in traditional finance, it would die out, things like that. And then here we are 16 years after Bitcoin's inception, and the markets are going strong, and it looks like most fiat currencies are going to go the way of the dinosaur in comparison to cryptocurrency and blockchain technology and all the interesting things we have going on in that space with DAOs and NFTs and whatnot. So the point of this podcast is not financial advice. Okay. The point of this podcast is education. It's to give you guys a starting point. And I don't want to sway your guys' opinions about whether the SEC is or isn't corrupt or things like that. But I'm just here to point out things that exist and are hopefully of use to you guys. And like I had said, I'm not the first CEO or person to even point that out. I do believe Citadel is suing Gary Gensler or has brought criminal charges against him for corruption. And then Elon Musk as well has talked about how corrupt the SEC is and how he is going to work towards doing something about it. Okay. So take what I say with a grain of salt, because I'm repeating and forwarding information on that I myself have absorbed, and it's just a personal opinion. But I think personally that crypto has the ability to govern itself. I think we don't need third parties outside of the Web3 community trying to corral and sort of bring to heed the crypto or Web3 space under antiquated rules that don't even seem to work in the markets that they exist in. So number one, that's the biggest thing, compliance. I want to make it so that you're able as a retail investor to distinguish between bad actors and good actors in the space in Web3. If nothing else, to be able to tell who is working towards compliance to become a good actor, right? So Bankscoin will allow for that, and there will be a myriad of different mechanisms within Bankscoin that will allow for that. It is not a tokenized blockchain, how most think of it. It does not have like a cryptographic hash mining function. It has its own proprietary mechanisms of how it works, but it still uses the basic principles of blockchain technology. It is open sourced. It will be a permissioned ledger. It's actually going to be the world's first quote unquote semi decentralized permissioned ledger, and part of its function will be able to help bring stability and security to the Web3 market. And that's what I've been working on for a while, and I've been hesitant to make announcements about it. And I've been trying to reach out to a couple different people within this space to bring more attention to it and hopefully partner with me to bringing it to a reality. I have coded the basic code, probably the first iteration of the blockchain, but it will probably undergo multiple iterations, and I need, well, number one, more working capital, but a strong partnership with people who understand the space and the need for compliance. So that's an open invite to anyone out there. I don't know who will answer that call, but hopefully as time goes on and people, or at least I hope that more attention is brought to this subject, more and more people will reach out to me. And please feel free to, I'll have links below to my Instagram, and the podcast and different things should have all links back to that. If you're interested in contacting me about working on Bankscoin specifically, or investing in it, or just even getting to know more about it, please get a hold of me. So that will be one of the mechanisms is a compliance mechanism for Web3. The second mechanism for Bankscoin is being able to to capture lost value that you have in fiat currency, specifically United States dollar. So fiat currencies are impacted by inflation, and Bankscoin has the ability to reverse and or negate inflation on the United States dollar or any fiat currency that's ran through the blockchain. But because I am an American citizen and I'm a patriot, and I believe in helping my community first, it is something that I am working towards and seeking to have Bankscoin implemented as a anti-inflationary mechanism on fiat USD. And so some of you might wonder why that's important, why that's of concern to me. I think it's something that maybe some of you guys who are of a younger audience might not understand. But when I was younger, I mean, I remember times in McDonald's, you know, they had hamburgers and double cheeseburgers and things like that for 35 cents, 45 cents back when I was 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. And now these same burgers and things are almost $5, $10 or better in certain cases. And so that, amongst many other things, but it is a direct impact of inflation, and it's an easy to correlate in your guys' mind. So if I'm 35 and we're in 2024, I'll let you guys maybe do the math and understand when I was born. And so if you are having the price of something so simple as a hamburger jump up, you know, you're talking, whatever that is, 1,000, whatever, 3,000, 4,000% over the course of 20 years. What does that mean that the price of a hamburger is going to be 20 years from now? Okay. So you guys might be able to afford $5, $10 hamburgers, but when the price of a hamburger then multiply it 4,000 times, I don't think you guys want to be paying $50,000 for a hamburger, $20,000 for a hamburger, 5,000, 100, whatever the case may be. Okay, so this is a really pressing issue, and if you look, all of the world's greatest economists, all of the people who are supposed to be these sort of grand masters of the universe, all talk about inflation and what a huge problem it is, right? And how there's the Federal Reserve Bank and how they toy with interest rates and they hope that'll do something. And it never quite seems to. You ask these people, you know, what is the cure for inflation? And no one knows. No one has a solid answer for you. Most of them can't even articulate it exactly what it is and what it does, right? Or why the United States has to lend money to itself, right? A bunch of different things. I'd seen a video just recently, actually. It was President Biden's economic advisor, I believe chief economic advisor, and they were talking about why is it that the United States has to lend itself money, right? Since we print our own money and it's not tied to a gold standard or anything like that. And he had no idea. He had no clue. I mean, just listening to the guy talk was painful. Truly. He sounds clueless. And I'm not trying to disparage the guy. I'm just saying this is the lead economic advisor to the president of the United States currently. Okay. So if we're all running around using funny money, which is basically what it is, it's not backed to anything, and we all just trust it, and we trust each other, and we have the full faith of the American government and us, we the people behind it, right? And it seems to keep our economy going. But none of us know how much is being printed, how much is destroyed every year. Well, not none of us. There are statistics, right? But these things are happening, and the general public at large doesn't know how many U.S. fiat notes are being destroyed every year. They don't know where they're going, where they're being lent to, who has them. Okay. And I'm not saying that we should all know where all cash is. That's not what I'm advocating for. But the fact that there is at no point a moment in time where the US dollar is actually attached to any sort of real world value that's generated by us as the people or logged so that we're aware, you know, that this dollar was printed, its value exists, and then any notes that come after, say, most of you guys might not realize this or not, but I believe something like $8.9 billion every year in fiat currency is destroyed. I believe by the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, or maybe it's the Treasury. I don't remember off the top of my head, but almost $9 billion, or it actually might be more than that, but $9 billion on average is destroyed every year by the Treasury because these notes have basically gone past their circulation date. They've been out for so long and people have been handling them that they're falling apart and being and essentially just crumbling or being ripped or shredded or whatever. They're not useful, okay, for exchange. It's very hard. And I think the average lifespan of a U.S. note is something around 7 years, I believe. Okay, so these notes that exist, and this could be any note because all these notes are going through these banks, and then the banks, if they track and log these notes, but if these notes are actually, hang on one second, I've got some odd noise going off in my headphones. Anyways, so if these notes are going back to the bank, right, and to the Federal Reserve, and if they are deemed unfit to continue to be in circulation, they're destroyed. Okay, but there's no specific program that replaces these notes. These notes just go into the banks, they're destroyed, and I don't think that most people realize this is value that's being lost out of the economy and essentially off book. Okay, and something has to be done about it. And then every year we're printing more and more notes. And when we wonder why we have an inflation problem, okay? Because we have these notes that are going out and essentially devaluing over time. And I think part of the solution to that is taking those same notes and we track them. They're put through Bankscoin, right? And part of what Bankscoin is actually going to do, so for those of you who don't know or understand the way that we value recapture any circulated fiat note. So what will happen is eventually is you will download the Bankscoin app, and on the app, you'll open it up and you'll have a picture section, right? And if you have any fiat notes, you'll be able to take a picture of those notes. It'll take the serial number and the minting bank, and it will use those as hashes. Okay. And it will actually validate that node like a node would in a blockchain, or a block in a blockchain. Not like it, it's exactly what it does. And then that'll be checked through with my company with a master list that's ran through the DTC and the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, U.S. Treasury, making sure that we aren't validating counterfeit notes, or that if counterfeit notes are trying to be validated on chain, the government's alerted of that, because obviously that'd be illegal. But essentially, we're going to attempt to log every serialized fiat USD note, whether it's from 2024, 2023, all the way on back for as long as we've been using fiat notes. And that is the main goal and objective of Bankscoin. Okay, that we actually log these notes, and then through different mechanisms, what we'll actually do is tap into past years of destroyed notes by the Treasury Department, and value recapture those and use them as rewards for our user community. Okay, so what will happen in the future, you have $100 bill, you'll take a picture of it, it'll scan the serial number, and then that will be logged on chain. And the reason why you do this is not only do you have the note, the fiat note to spend, but the actual value that's placed within it by the American people will be captured on chain. And what we're going to do is reward any user that takes a picture of that note with their phone. You're going to get, I believe we're talking somewhere in the metric of 80% of that note back. So for every $100 bill you scan, you're going to make $80. Okay. Let that sink in for a moment. The issue is not that we print too much money. There's not enough money to go around as is. You look at the wealth and disparity gap. It's not like a bunch of money went to the wealthy and then the poor or the middle class have sat there and said, oh, we have enough. Most people complain that they aren't being paid even what they're worth at their jobs, right? To sit there and say that your life is worth $20 an hour, $25 an hour, $100 an hour, whatever, right? In an economy and in a financial market where a burger costs $10, $15 an hour. So you're saying I'm worth 3-4 burgers per hour? It doesn't make sense. Okay. So that's what I'm working on. And truly my end goal is to become the father of modern day finance. Okay. And not just as a egotistical title, but I think it's something that it's needed. We need someone who has a grand overarching architectural vision for what our financial future is, and someone that looks at the problems that most of the market sits there and says we don't have the answer to, and works on a solution for it. And I think inflation is one of, if not the biggest problems facing not only the American people, but the United States economy and the world economy. Okay. So that's what I'm working on. For those of you who don't know, for any investors that don't know, I am working on materials that will make this easier to digest, and why these specific functions will do something, and how I talk about stabilizing the crypto market. What we are working on doing is, once you've actually locked in the value of our currency on chain, what we're then going to do is pair that with the burns of crypto projects that are seeking to be legitimate. We'll create 10 to 15, 20-year long bonds, variable rate bonds, offer them to institutional investors and retail investors alike. There'll be different classes and there'll be different asset classes, but we are seeking to create the world's first crypto bond as well, just like you would buy a bond from the United States government. Okay. And these things are going to be backed by the full faith of the American people. There'll be legislation behind it. It'll be as good as a United States dollar. Okay. This is not something that I have anything to sell you guys. I don't need your money. I don't want your money. I want to make everyone out there more money. 1 in 8 Americans currently uses cryptocurrency, and that number is going to go up. And there's nothing protecting the American public and the American people against bad actors in this space and protecting our future and the economic future of the American people from pre-existing bad actors in the financial markets as is, including regulatory bodies. So this is the point of Bankscoin. Hopefully this resonates with you guys and gives you a little bit more insight. There is a white paper coming. I've been promising it since actually April or so. I've been incredibly busy. I've been trying to get a couple different experts and people of note onto the podcast to give you guys a couple different outside takes. So it's not just me giving you one version of the future and my limited vision of what crypto's future should look like, right? I want to be able to voice these opinions with subject matter experts or people who are of worth or can help make these things a reality and see what they think. And I would like to get your guys' input as well, especially those of you who are longtime retail investors in the cryptographic space or Web3 space. I want to hear from the community. Also, if you guys would like, I will include the links to my original talks on the bitcoin.org discussion boards. My name is Stack Banks on there as well. But I have fleshed these ideas out with senior developers on the original Bitcoin discussion boards to get their takes on it before I ever went public with any of this stuff. And I believe that they see that this is a admirable and moral endeavor, and that it's something that will be of benefit to everyone. And full transparency, yeah, sure, I'm sure I would make some money doing this, right? As would probably anyone, right? When you're looking to essentially bring regulation to any financial market, there's a lot of money in markets, right? But my end goal is not to enrich myself. My end goal is to provide security and safety for all of us, all Americans, so that we are not continuously being defrauded by pump and dump schemes. Or if there are pump and dump schemes out there or things like that, I said bad actors in this space, we're able to vet them and separate them from the good actors and the legitimate projects and things that are actually worthy of the enthusiasts of Web3's time and attention and support. Okay. So soon I will have websites up, a white paper out, different things that will hopefully educate you guys on Bankscoin. Until then, I appreciate everyone's support. I know this is probably not the podcast you thought that you would get, but hopefully this is the one the world needs. And I will continue to talk about this subject until I gain some traction on it and we're able to actually blow this idea up. So until then, I appreciate everyone's time. I would appreciate anyone who shares this podcast, shares my Instagram, our message, Bankscoin, anything about it. We're on all social medias. It's something that I believe impacts every American from, from current all the way to those of you who just have kids. I want Bankscoin to be something that's the birthright of every American, that our money works for us and that we're not defrauded by it. And it isn't something that loses value over time and we have to perpetually seek out different forms of it. And we don't know what it's going to be based on. It's all just this pie in the sky crap. Okay. So those are my goals. I appreciate everyone. And hopefully this was of use to you. And I'd appreciate any support that you guys could give this. I believe it's going to be of benefit to all of us. But time is of the essence. The more and more time goes by where these things are not being corrected and worked on, is the longer and harder this problem becomes. So I appreciate everyone. I know there's a 4th of July coming up. I will probably not be doing, I'll probably do one more podcast and it might come out Friday. But until then, you guys will probably not hear from me until after July 4th because I will be traveling. But hopefully this podcast was informative and I hope to hear from you all then. And until then, look after each other's, please. Please look after your investments and stay active. And if you can, share this message. I think as the years go on, people will look back and be glad they did. Until then, I'm out.